Righto, well, back at MTQ, and Ronnie's ready to put the pump back together. And get a load of this. This is all the bits that are being replaced. You can see the springs and the old rollers and bits and pieces there. This is what's going together, and this is the body of the pump itself, all nice and clean. It's just glorious. It's going to be like new. Yeah? Beautiful. Let's go. They're your critical bits, they're your pistons, aren't they, to pump the fuel. So essentially, you know, what we're looking at here is a new fuel pump, basically. By the time all this stuff's gone in, it's a new fuel pump. And these things looked after well, you know, with a water separator and at least one extra fuel strainer on the way through, filter. 500,000 case, possibly. I know of one that's done 900,000. And I'm just standing here thinking of the sheer joy that means in terms of places you can go in Australia. Cool. This is kind of crucial because everything has to be timed perfectly. It all has to match. They're like a little motor, aren't they? You know, like a little block with little pistons, a little roller gear. It's just fantastic. I'm going to look around for one now and get one on my desk, I think, you know. Have it sort of sitting there clacking away in the corner. It'd just be fantastic. So these are such crucial bits of machinery that even though they're brand new, you don't mix them up. So each element, each piston and sleeve is a matched pair. You don't want to mix them up. You can imagine doing this, you know, on a dirt floor shed with a bucket full of bits. You're not going to be that accurate. I know someone who did that once too. The thing still worked, just blew a bit of smoke. Beautiful. Oh, see that? Step by step torquing. Very, very special. Why do you do that, Ronnie?
Just avoid the, there's something wrong.
Yep.
Like
nipping
skew.
up, or on an angle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Break the housing.
We don't muck around with pumps. You know, it's got to be just exactly right, hasn't it? Oh, I feel terrible about that dirt floor incident, but anyway.
You have to get the center.
Yep. How far the elements can move up and down determines how much fuel the motor's going to get. So obviously the rack has to be centred, all the elements have to be centred on the rack to make sure everything's moving up and down at the same pace, same amount of fuel. Makes sense. So what are you looking for there, Ronnie? What's the...
Your helix should be facing on the dowel.
Okay, that dowel, the same dowel for everything, yeah.
Yes, if you put that the other way, you don't have any fuel at all.
No. So that's the helix is the slot on the bottom of the element which is feeding into the pin on the collet you saw that turns, which is on that rack. And so therefore you can see what happens, you know, like as the rack goes in and out, all the elements are going to be higher or lower, and that'll give you the stroke of fuel that you need, that you want. We might just short circuit all of this and just put in maximum stroke right from the beginning, eh? No, maybe not. It's just a bit exciting, you know, when you see stuff like this. I mean, this is the crucial component in a diesel engine, you know. Like all the rest is just sort of, you know, petrol motor but a bit stronger or a lot stronger. Then you get to the diesel pump and you're talking, you know, pure sophistication. You really are. Now I know all you common rail diesel people are thinking, no, that's nothing compared to what a common rail diesel pressure runs at, etc. Who cares? This is fully mechanical. This is how it should be done. So that's one of the old rollers from the inside of, I guess you'd call that a cam follower. Would you, that bucket thing?
Engine.
Yeah, similar sort of deal. So as you can see, It's actually a bush within a roller with a pin in the middle. Now, to the naked eye, or to my eye, because it's naked, I can't even see the wear on that. There's a tiny little bit of hard surface wear, and that's after about 500,000 Ks. So these are the bits that Ronnie's replaced within the cam follower buckets themselves. It's just going to be like a new pump. It's going to be awesome.
To absorb the vibration.
So this is all lubricated off the oil system of the engine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. How crucial is it? You know, good oil and filters. It's just everything. I mean, you've got to lubricate all this stuff too, not just your pistons flapping up and down in their giant holes. This is called a Woodruff Key, and in an application like this, when it's in there to locate something, it's absolutely perfect. But the British motorcycle industry used to use things like that to transmit the power. Oh, we were forever having trouble with them. Mind you, I guess the bikes were 20 years old by the time we started playing with them. And this is where a real professional makes the key fit the slot, or makes the slot fit the key. You know, your average butcher would just shave a bit off the Woodruff Key, which would mean it would go in really easy and flop around all over the place, which is probably why they used to break, which leads me right back to why the hell did the British motorcycle industry do that in the first place? You know, I was trying to work out the numbers the other night. If this is sitting on 3,000 RPM, the engine, that means this is timed at half that speed, isn't it? So it would be 1,500. So 1,500 revs a minute, or 1,500 times a minute that each one of these elements is pumping fuel. Okay, so in an hour, that's a really big number, kind of like American Lotto or something. You can work it out. I think it's 600,000. Okay, so multiply that by a 10-hour day to put in 1,000 Ks, and all of a sudden you're starting to talk an insane amount of use, aren't you? You know, and then multiply that day by 4 days a week, by a year, by 10 years, and you've just got ginormous numbers, which brings me right back to the crucial question of lubrication, because all of that's lubricated by the engine oil, except for this last bit, which will be lubricated by the diesel. That'd be right, wouldn't it? The elements are just lubricated by the diesel fuel itself. But diesel is an oil, and not a very thick oil, but it's an oil, which is one of the reasons why diesel engines last a lot longer than petrol engines. Petrol doesn't lubricate. Petrol washes lubricant away. That's why they used to put lead in it, by the way, so it would lubricate the valve stems and the seats. They don't do that now. They just use harder stems and harder seats. Righto, well, now we've got the cam in and the elements in, and you know, the bottom end of the pump, so to speak. This is the governor. It's going in now. That's the idle spring, Ronnie. So you replace that. Yep. That's the one that brings it back to idle. But other than that, it's just cleaned up and back in for another run. Beautiful. Oh, no, I was just looking at the wear on it. It's
The
not
bearing
much.
cups.
Yeah, it's not a lot for what it's done. Yes. That's definitely worn, isn't
Yeah,
it?
no, that's worn.
You see the wear track on
You
it.
can see if you put your nail there, you'll feel the ridge.
Oh yeah, wow. Yeah, you can.
You feel the ridge there straight away.
So it was on its way.
Oh yeah. That one too. That's seriously bad.
Yeah. Oh, it is too.
If you see that track.
You know.
Yeah, I built many of these pumps in my days. Yeah, before you even open it, you know exactly what you.
What you're going to see. Yeah. And is this common wear
Yeah.
on the cam? Yeah. So that.
Just remember, this is also gear driven.
Yep.
So you've got a lot of load because it's a spherical gear. It's not a straight cut gear.
Right.
So it's an angle gear. So you have got a lot of load like that.
Ah, yeah, of course.
So
Okay.
you've got that That's why he does the pre-stroke, end plate
Yep.
on the camshaft to get the end float correct.
Yep.
If it's too loose, it does that, so it's got to be just right.
Just got to be right.
Just the tension's got to be right. But when it starts wearing like that, is then your infloat increases.
Right.
That also affects your control rod, because if it's not correct, you get that.
It'll be.
Yeah, on your
flapping
control rod,
around.
when you test the pump, you'll see your gauge will be doing that.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Well, you can see, the wear in the cam bearings. I mean, it's really plain, as Dion just pointed out. It's pretty obvious, and you can start to see now why an old diesel can still go, but why it seems to fluctuate or float around the place or not be dead accurate. Because at the end of the day, this has got to be mechanically perfect. The end float on the cam, everything can affect what's going on in terms of the pump duration, the element pump duration. Fantastic. There you go, mate. I'm hanging on. I learned something. Yeah, truth is I'm learning heaps today. This is just such an incredible experience for an old bush mechanic, I can tell you, seeing how intricate these things are. And also seeing how you can make them absolutely perfect. Wow.
Yeah.
Done? Whoa, that was a bit of effort. You've got to be pretty confident to do that. And now you'll be able to tell people you've seen Roothy rebuild an injector pump. Can I let go of this now?
Yes.
Oh, thank heavens. This is the governor, which is the crucial part of any diesel, really. It's what makes the difference between a diesel and a petrol to some degree, because the governor is designed to deliver more fuel at the same throttle setting if the engine's losing revs. So in that sense, it's as simple as any governor since steam engine days. It's just two bob weights flying out, delivering more fuel, pushing the cam rod through, as you saw. Fascinating, isn't it? Just absolutely fascinating. And just something that Alan Gray was talking about last time he was yarning with me and Simon about, because 80% of the fuel that gets delivered to the injectors is there for cooling. If you let your fuel run right down, so you've only got 3 or 4 litres in the tank, that fuel in the tank is going to get really hot. And because it's already hot by the time it comes through the pump, it's not lubricating anywhere near as well. So it's also allowing the build-up of heat to continue. And so that's why you should never run a diesel low on fuel, because all you're doing in that last few litres is heaps of damage, lots of wear and tear. Interesting, eh? I think I'm going to get on to Brown Davies and get a really big tank. So when you put your foot on the throttle, eventually this is what you're moving, and then this is going to ride inside the governor and move that fuel rail, which adjusts the amount of fuel that goes through the elements. And the governor's in the middle to do its own little bit of adjusting. There you go, mate. Thank you. I know I was just so helpful. Hey, like totally useful, John, they call him. Useful and helpful. And there you have it. That's the governor cover. It was a real jiggle. You could see that. Ronnie nailed it because he's done millions of these, I guess, but he had to get that little guide, would you call it the guide? No, that's not
guide block.
The guide block, inside the guide, and sort of do all that in a big shuffle.
That one should be...
Goes, it has to go that way too, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
Goes like that.
So it has to go the hardest way possible, which is vertical. That'll be right. Well done, mate. Okay, that's a reamer. Is it an adjustable reamer, this one? Or a fixed reamer? Fixed reamer. And so the bushes go in, they're slightly undersized,
Yeah.
and then it's reamed to make sure that the bushes, the hole in the bushes is dead straight. So that, and presumably, what's the clearance on the shaft, Ronnie? Not much?
Not much.
Not much. Not much clearance. So that'll keep it tight. It's got to be tight for a whole lot of reasons. It needs to be able to turn, but it's got to be tight so it doesn't leak, blow seals, do all that kind of stuff, and flop around, Get an old one of these that will flop around. You heard that here, I said that. Yeah, so just don't call me floppy, alright? I mean, how can you when a bloke's pump is this tight? Awesome! Righto, now this is just on the pump rebuild, and Ronnie done a lot of the preparatory work before we even got here. And here we are, a couple of hours down the track. Still not quite finished. We've got a guy who really knows his stuff, going fast. You know what that means, don't you? When you see how much people charge to rebuild a pump, there's a reason for it. It's labour intensive and it's specialist work, big time. Plus, look at all the components that needed replacing. You know, so anyone who thinks it's just like swapping spark plugs or something like that, well, think again. It's a whole new world. A whole new world, it really is. Here we are, pump's fully assembled. The injectors are over here. It's all ready to rock and roll. This machine essentially simulates what the pump's going to do inside the 12HT or strapped to the side of the 12HT. So you've got pressure readings, all the calibration is here, all the information needed to tune the pump. And that's about how much I understand. The other part that I understand is that a machine like this, and there's a couple of them here, they're worth an absolute fortune, you know, like you're talking millions of bucks. And the level of expertise to understand all of this and get the timing right is absolutely critical to the operation. I can say that because Ronnie's out at the moment, you know, he's not here. So it's almost like black magic, honestly. It's that technical, it's not funny. This is like the brain surgery of medicine, if you know what I mean. And in fact, that's a pretty good analogy. I like that. It is. This is the brain surgery. And getting this thing perfectly set up is what makes the difference between putting your foot down for the next million Ks and not. Oops, Ronnie's back. Yeah, so there you go. Now I've explained it all. You understand it, don't you? Oh well, at least Ronnie knows his stuff, hey? But you know what, I've learnt so much today, especially how critical lubrication is and how crucial clean fuel is. These are things you really need to look after if you've got a diesel. Well, we're nearly at the end of the process here of, you know, building and testing the pump, the injectors, the effort that went into the turbo. What do you learn from all of this? Well, I'll tell you the one thing that keeps hitting me on the head constantly is how many moving parts there are, how much pressure everything's under, and the importance of keeping clean oil, clean filters in the engine, because all of this is lubricated, all the bottom half is lubricated by the engine oil. It just goes on and on, you know. You tend to think of oil as just the bearings on the crank and the pistons going up and down on the cam. No, it's the intricate stuff on a diesel too, well and truly, that's got to be kept lubricated if it's going to last. That's the first part. Clean oil, clean filters, servicing, quality. Second part is the cleanliness of the fuel itself, which is why people like me always have at least one extra very fine filter with a water trap somewhere in the line, and why it's always good practice to keep some fuel in the tank. In fact, if you wanted to be really full on about this, you'd probably drain the last few litres of diesel out of the tank every now and then, maybe once a year, just to keep it clean right from the source. I've only done that a handful of times with Milo, but I do change the filters a lot. Vital stuff. See you in 500,000 Ks.